Hey, yo, Fro Wrestling podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. While you're at it, if you're sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 every year for the latest and greatest wrestling video games, stop immediately. Go to Facebook and go to Wrestler Unstoppable. It's exclusive. It's only on Facebook and it's totally free. Create your own wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable. Available now exclusively to Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family and you want your name in the shoutouts like our good buddy Harold in St. Louis, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. Don't forget loyalty rewards for anybody who contributes $15 a month. You're going to co-host an episode of Going Live with me, and our $7.50 a month contributors get entered into a drawing to do just the same. We have a drawing coming up for that in a few weeks. We're going to have our first winner of our 750 contributors. We'll see that coming very soon. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. Been a few days. Had to get organized. Those who know me know I'm a school teacher. It's the start of the school year. Had to go get everything set up and get into my rhythm again. But I am back with this episode because there's so much to talk about. It's been huge. We haven't talked since, gosh, I want to say August 25th or so. So it's been a little bit here, and we have a lot to cover. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about All In. It was a great show. I think monumental in the industry. Some people disappointed. I'm really surprised that so many people are disappointed, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And if you are new to the Fro Wrestling Podcast, make sure you go to our website, frowrestling.com. There we have all sorts of things for you, including our indie events tab, where you can click on the tab and see independent wrestling shows coming to all different parts of the country. I have tried to partner with as many indie promotions as I can and try to get their posters up for you guys so you can find some of the coolest and innovative wrestling all around the country. Check that out if you get the opportunity. If something comes to your area, go see a show. Usually those smaller shows are so much more personal and they're so much more enjoyable. So make sure you do that. And if you have questions or comments for me, Mr. Fro, give me a shout at the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line 267-642-1160, where I can address all your questions, comments, and concerns through their talk to text service. That's right, you talk, it texts me. It'll send me your message and I'll get to it on our next episode. And if you do one of those call-ins, make sure you tell me who you are. I like to give credit to people when they ask questions. I want to make sure I get their name into the episode as well. So tonight, as I said a little bit ago, the All In show, fantastic show in my opinion, top to bottom. Starting with the Briscoes tag team match against SoCal Uncensored to start the show, all the way through the final match with the Rey Mysterio 6-man tag team match. I thought the show was solid. Now here's the thing. Sometimes people look at a show ahead of time and they say, who's going to be on the card? And that should dictate to me what type of matches I'm going to see, the quality of the wrestling I'm going to see. And when you looked at this card, top to bottom, it looked like this was going to be one of the most physical and wrestling heavy shows we've seen in years. Now, the reality is there was a little bit too much theatrics for some people's taste, but it wasn't WWE level of theatrics. It was much more toned down, but it wasn't like a New Japan show either. And I think too many people, the ones who were disappointed at least, were expecting a New Japan style show where everything was going to be dead serious, you know? That wasn't the way it needed to be. This gave me the feel of like Starrcade 83, Starrcade 84, Starrcade 85, the old school NWA pay-per-views where you had every match had significance even though there wasn't these huge storylines. I mean, you go to Starrcade, the big main event was always going to be, you know, the NWA World Championship, which it was again at this show. But all the other matches on a Starrcade show when it first got going, really, they weren't as publicized, much like these weren't as publicized as like a WWE pay-per-view now. You go into the show and you're watching some of the best wrestlers in the world and you're just thrilled to see quality wrestling. And we got that. Now, one of the issues that did hit the show is there was a lot of overrun by some of the other matches, and it made it so the show ran a little bit long. That's why for those who watched the show, at the very end, you got to see, you know, they really wrap up the match and they do the credits. They didn't even finish speaking their goodbyes as the announcers, and they had already faded to the credit screen because they had run out of pay-per-view time. However, the show is a resounding success either way. And the reality is, when you look at the All In show and you think about what they did, in such a short period of time, they had a live crowd. The official number came in as 11,263 people in the stadium, and that's not counting, there was, I believe, 198,000 watching the first hour on Access Television, and all the people who subscribe through the Fight Network and all those other streaming media services. So really a very successful show. You could put that show up against anything Impact Wrestling has put on pay-per-view in years, and I'm not trying to trash talk Impact Wrestling. I'm talking about buy rates. Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, all of them. This show, in a lot of ways, outdid them all. I thought it was interesting after the show, Cody talking about how now that he's produced something, he wants to produce more. It's like he's got his father's blood burning inside him to do it again, and I hope they do. The only thing that I think could get in the way is if WWE really goes like with some sick, crazy money at Cody when he gets his contract to renew. If I were Cody, obviously, if they make you an insane deal, you have to take it. You got to take care of the family first. He's got an infinite amount of time. He can come back and always produce All In 2 or something like that. Now, I heard somebody saying online, if Cody goes back to WWE and then comes back later to do All In 2, that he's going to be a sellout and it won't sell the same. Maybe that's true. Which is a ridiculous way to look at things if you're a true wrestling fan. A true wrestling fan doesn't give a crap what company you work for. They want to see great wrestling action. And you always know that WWE will put on 1 or 2 great matches a year, but the best in-ring action is always the independent scene. It's always places like Ring of Honor, New Japan, AAW, places like that. Places that have a big enough talent pool that they can put on quality matches every single show. And at the end of the day, I don't care if Cody goes back to WWE and comes back and does All In 2 at a future date or not, as long as he does it, because I think they really have the opportunity to offer something special, something amazing that you can't find anywhere else. That's just my take on All In, and I really do hope they bring in All In 2. Last week, Pro Wrestling Illustrated released their list of top wrestlers, and the number 1 wrestler in the world they ranked was Kenny Omega, who last year came in at number 5. I find it fascinating the way they do their rankings with this because, Kenny Omega was last year's number 5. He's number 1 this year. AJ Styles is number 2. He was number 2 last year. Kazuchika Okada fell to number 3, and he was number 1 last year. The one that kind of surprises me is Brock Lesnar skyrocketed from number 25 to number 4, and I can't for the life of me understand why. It's like in the time that the last issue was published, in this issue, what did the guy wrestle? Maybe 6 matches? If that? The guy's not on TV. How could he be the 4th best wrestler in the world? Don't get me wrong. I know he's a beast, and I know he's a legit fighter for mixed martial arts and all that stuff, but I would much rather have even a Braun Strowman or a Roman Reigns or a Cody or a Naito, all the people who came after him. So Lesnar came in at 4, Seth Rollins 5, Braun Strowman 6. I was a little shocked. He came up from 34 to get to 6. Seth Rollins from 16 to 5th. Roman Reigns fell from number 4 to number 7. Cody Rhodes came all the way up from 33 to number 8. Tetsuya Naito and The Miz rounding out the top 10. And I look at the list and I think they're all blue chip players. Don't get me wrong, except maybe The Miz, and that's a debate to begin with. But when you look at that list, there's some names that aren't on it that I think deserve at least consideration. There's others that are on it. Like I said, Brock Lesnar. I appreciate Brock Lesnar more than you'll ever know. I know a lot of people don't like the guy because he doesn't show up a whole lot, because he's not supposed to, by the way. Because he had that long championship reign when they would prefer somebody else had it. I understand it, but that's what they booked. But the reality is, even his in-ring work has been lacking in the last couple years. I would easily put someone like Finn Balor ahead of Brock Lesnar as far as being the best wrestlers in the world. That's what it's supposed to be. Pro Wrestling Illustrated's top wrestler in the world. Brock Lesnar doesn't wrestle. He punches people in the face, punches them with his elbow. He does his suplex city and his F5. That's it. That's his moveset. Back in 2003, the guy could wrestle. Now, he does like 8 moves. And that's a generous number. He really doesn't do very many actual offensive moves. So I was a little surprised to see him that high. Good for Kenny Omega coming in at number 1, because I hope that sends a message to WWE. I don't care who you got wearing your belt. And I am a huge AJ Styles mark, but Kenny Omega is doing it in a way that doesn't need WWE and is attracting an insane quantity of fans all over the world. And that's awesome. I love that numbers 1, 3, 8, 9 are all non-WWE talents in the top 10. That's fantastic, and it really says something about the quality of independent wrestling. Jay Lethal's the guy I put above Brock Lesnar. I had to throw that out there because I'm a huge Jay Lethal mark too. But we'll have to see how that shakes out next year. I'll be curious to see if AJ Styles stays at 2 next year or if he dips a bit as he gets a year older and we don't know what he's going to be doing going forward. Somebody we're getting some more clarity on, though, and somebody who is in the headline of this episode is Rey Mysterio, who was a guest of Jim Ross's on his StarCast podcast, Ringside with Jim Ross, and he made it clear that his quote was, "I'm waiting for them to say now, and the time is right, and then let's go." And he's referencing his negotiations with WWE. Rey Mysterio is on the verge of coming back. We all have known that for months, but it's really getting to the point of exhaustion here, where when it finally happens, we will have been teased for so long that it won't feel as special as it did when he came back for the Royal Rumble. That was a great pop. That was amazing. This is like dragging it out and beating a dead horse. Now, here's the thing. If WWE had the kind of relationship where they could say, hey, listen, make the announcement, Rey Mysterio is coming back or whatever, but he's going to finish up his dates with New Japan Pro Wrestling, let him wrestle against, the different cruiserweights there before he comes, that would be fascinating. That would be monumental in the world of professional wrestling. But of course, WWE doesn't like to acknowledge anybody outside of WWE, so that's not going to happen. Something else that it sounds like is not going to happen is Big Cass, the Big C, as he's known now on the independent scene, I saw that the other day, was on Booker T's Heated Conversations podcast, and he was put on the spot. He's like, is there a possibility that you and Enzo Amore are going to get back together on the indie scene or whatever? And he said no. What me and him had was very special. It was special in NXT. It was special in WWE. But I feel like it ran its course, and they pulled the trigger on separating us at the right time. Unfortunately, I got injured, but they pulled the trigger at the right time. Me and him, we don't keep in contact. We're not friends, so I don't think it's going to be a possibility. That's almost sad. It shows it's yet another example, and this happens all throughout the history of wrestling, where a tag team gets together, and by the time they break up, they're so fed up with each other, they have no interest in ever reconciling. There's a few times where that's not the case, where you get a great tag team, they come back together, and it's perfect. He was actually pressed on the issue, asked how it could be made to happen, or how might it happen anyways, and he said, well, let me tell you something, Booker, if the money's right, but at this point in time, I haven't been fielded any offers from anybody. But they say never say never. Maybe one day him and I will be reunited, and me and him will be great friends. We'll just take the world by storm, but right now I don't think there's a chance. That tells you a lot about how the two of them feel about each other, and it probably was a good idea to break those two up. Ric Flair in the news recently. He was on the podcast on Wrestling Inc., where he talked about a whole lot of things, but one of the ones that I found fascinating was he was put on the spot about who's the greatest babyface of all time. Now, as a huge Ric Flair fan, you already know that he was going to say Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and that's exactly what he did. I don't think he has more respect for anybody in the history of the wrestling business than Ricky Steamboat. The body, the move set, the way he conditioned himself, the fact that he's in real life just a genuinely amazing guy. I met him one time. I thought he was amazing. I had a great conversation with him about all kinds of stuff. But I was not surprised to hear that he chose Steamboat. What I loved hearing, though, is he talked about The Undertaker. He said, The Undertaker single-handedly helped restore my self-confidence, which was totally gone, said Flair. At press time, I was 55 years old and didn't see myself back in the ring. Mark really got me up and running. And I love it that all these years later, after Ric Flair came back and had that great match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania X7, I believe it was, that he could come back and still is so gracious about how important that experience was. And I love that he still credits Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker, with being so influential in getting him back on the horse. Because remember, after that is when all the Evolution stuff happened. Ric Flair got his run with the Intercontinental Championship, Tag Team Championships, things of that nature. And really, it added a whole nother layer to his career. And I don't know if that would have happened if he didn't get the confidence back that he had previously. Batista was being interviewed by What Culture, and he had a lot of things to say specifically about his wrestling career, and he talked about how it's something he misses every single day, and he would love to come back, which I find fascinating. He's been saying that for a long time, but it has to be against the right opponent, the right time. He's very frustrated still to this day that his last run was so mismanaged creatively, and for him to come back, there's risk of injury and things of that nature. He has to have considerations for creative control and what they're going to do should he get hurt. I think if WWE wanted to make the match happen, they can make it happen tomorrow. I think what he would like to do, obviously he said it before, he did not say it in this interview, but he said it many times, he would like to face Triple H at WrestleMania and have one last go around. He's actually much more advanced in age than you would think because he came out really late, but he still has the body, he still has the physique, he still has the appearance, he looks like a genuine tough guy, and quite frankly, I never get sick of seeing the guy in the ring. I think he's a fantastic talent. One thing that I did get sick of earlier this year was WWE's Mixed Match Challenge. It will be returning Tuesday, September 18th, my birthday. If anybody out there is listening and they remember my birthday on September 18th, feel free, as a wonderful birthday gift, sign up for the Patreon account, patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast, and I will love you forever. I already do, but I'm trying to maximize my productivity by throwing that out there. But in this second season of the Mixed Match Challenge, we're going to see certain teams. We've seen some before. Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss will be back together. They were adorable the first time. They'll probably be adorable this time. I think it's horrible timing with them flipping Braun Strowman to a heel, and I still don't like him as a heel. I really feel like he was an organic good guy. Putting him with McIntyre, I actually didn't have a problem with. It's the Dolph Ziggler thing. For some reason, that just rubs me the wrong way. Dolph Ziggler, he's just over as a heel right now. Drew McIntyre, he tries to play the heel, but I can't help it. He's a cool bad guy. I like that. And now that you got Braun Strowman with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, it has a funky feel for me still. I'm waiting for that to feel a little more fresh. Of course, after McIntyre and Ziggler won the Tag Team Championship on Raw, I'm sure they're going to be featured even more, and it'll add to the storyline that he's trying to take the Universal title, and their faction, whatever they end up being called, is going to hopefully dominate the brand for the foreseeable future, but we'll have to see how those things work out. Other teams from Raw, Bobby Lashley will team with Sasha Banks. That's a first. Finn Balor and Bayley back together. Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. Kevin Owens and Natalya, which I find to be a very interesting tag team, especially with the two of their Canadian heritage. I think that'll be an interesting way to watch those two and see how they get along. On the SmackDown brand, we've got The Miz and Asuka, which I don't understand at all. I get they've been together before, but I don't understand that when you have Maurice coming back into the fold. This is perfect for you to have The Miz and Maurice, and then another team, Jimmy Uso and Naomi. They would easily be the perfect first-round matchup. Instead, we also have Rusev and Lana. So you let those two married couples get in, but not have The Miz and Maurice. I think that's a little weird. You have R-Truth and Carmella, which, I'm just being honest here, I would pay money for the two of them to win the whole thing. Now, WWE has not announced what charity anybody's playing for. Maybe they're not this time. They're going to put 2 episodes on a 30-minute show every time this time. But we'll have to see. Oh, by the way, the last tag team from SmackDown easily has to be SmackDown's favorite to win. WWE Champion AJ Styles and the SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte. What an incredible tag team. I guess they had to do something different now that the Robed Warriors can't be together because they're on rival programs, but also if they were going to do this, you'd think they would have thought of that. Since they're not doing anything else with Bobby Roode, trade them back over to SmackDown so you could put them back together ahead of this competition. Instead, Bobby Roode's doing a whole lot of nothing, teaming up with Chad Gable in what only can be described as a band-aid on the Jason Jordan issue. Jason Jordan's still out with injury, probably not coming back anytime soon, but I hate that as well. Somebody else who's been missing from TV, Nia Jax. People have been wondering, well, back at Extreme Rules in June was the last time we saw her, and here apparently she hurt her leg. She's been out with a leg injury, but she's been getting physical therapy. She's training at the Performance Center now, only this past week. Pro Wrestling Insider has her being ready to come back very soon, and hopefully she gets back in the ring because there's certain feuds that are perfectly screaming for her, like Ember Moon. We'd like to see something like that. We have the Evolution pay-per-view coming. I don't think it would take much. I really don't, for WWE to make an overture to Karma, a.k.a. Kia Stevens, or Awesome Kong, whatever you want to call her, and get her into that Evolution show. I would love to see her and Nia Jax square off, maybe throw Ember Moon into the mix. It'd make for a great match, because if anybody knows anything about Awesome Kong, she can go. That lady is talented, and I would love to see her get a shot at Nia Jax. This week at SmackDown, James Ellsworth was backstage again. I feel bad for this guy because WWE doesn't want to commit to giving him a long-term contract, but they kind of use him and pick and choose to when they're going to use the guy, and it's like he's like their lapdog. Like, come on, man. Now, they were saying that he was back to film something for a WWE Evolution pay-per-view vignette or something for the network or something of that nature, DVD release. But come on, man, that guy, when he first debuted, and I'm not talking about when he got squashed by Braun Strowman, I'm talking about when he went to SmackDown and was challenging AJ Styles, he had a pretty solid following, and then you turn him into this comic sidekick for Carmella, and it pretty much destroyed him. Now WWE doesn't see money in him. Well, yeah, because you flushed it down the toilet. He was popular for a little while. There was actually a period of time where if you had him upset Dean Ambrose or AJ Styles for the World Championship, yes, people would have flipped out, but they would have actually understood it more than they did when Jinder Mahal did it, easily. Because at least they had built James Ellsworth up somehow to be believable. I don't know how that happened, but they did it. Now, you got this, no chance. His career is destroyed as far as being a serious wrestler ever again. Just my opinion. Hulk Hogan was out talking about how he supported All In. His quote, and this is from Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso, he said, "They have my support. I'm a huge fan of their work, and I'm rooting for them." He said from his home in Florida, "WWE is a mainstay. They're here forever, but whenever there is competition in the marketplace, especially with a group of guys like Cody, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, it just raises the bar with the level of shows and content," and he couldn't be more right. He also said, "I've been keeping my eye on the Bullet Club for the last couple years, and here's my favorite part of the interview." He said, "Cody has talked to me about maybe doing something with Bullet Club, but those guys are on fire on their own." I find that fascinating that he admitted that they had conversations about possibly tying him into something, and I think that would have been fantastic. But obviously not happening right now, especially if he's back to WWE, reinstated, and probably has some kind of deal in place to be either an ambassador or something of that nature for WWE. Sean Waltman's Xbox 12360, the show that you can listen to on iTunes, Android, he was out talking about something that I find fascinating, and this is the final topic I have for this episode, and that's Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker's segment from Raw. He was talking about it. For those who didn't tune into Raw, and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume that everybody listening watched Raw. If you didn't, you need to go back and watch it and watch the interaction. Shawn Michaels coming out, everybody popped huge for Shawn Michaels. That guy could be 160 years old. He's still going to get a huge pop. He's just like Hulk Hogan. He came out and he cut a fantastic promo to be interrupted by The Undertaker, who came out and honestly, X-Pac's opinion, Sean Waltman's opinion was it was some of the best Taker mic work he's ever seen. That's a quote from his show. And I couldn't agree more. Shawn Michaels was playing up this respect thing, and the reason I haven't unretired is out of respect for you and all this. And The Undertaker kind of playing a pseudo heel role, saying, did you not come back out of respect, or did you not come back because of fear? And X-Pac, Sean Waltman puts out there that he thinks that this is a way to put a little nugget out there. He said, his quote was, "I'm pretty sure this is planting a seed for some kind of Undertaker versus Shawn. Whether it's a singles or some kind of tag team or triple threat or something, I see that. It's the history these two have. He," meaning Shawn Michaels, "can still go out there and do a lot of stuff, but he doesn't want the pressure. I think from talking to him, it's not going to be The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, where they had one of the greatest matches ever. The implication here is that at some point, X-Pac, Sean Waltman, a good friend of Shawn Michaels, who's talked to him about this topic, still thinks there's something there. He thinks there's a match that could be made." Now, I'm going to tell you, when I watched Raw, I saw the way Shawn Michaels looked at him when he told him it was fear. And Shawn Michaels never really addressed that. And they left it kind of vague. And here's the thing. What better way to round out their feud? This Triple H thing, this is supposed to be the last time ever at this, show in Australia. What about Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker? I know they did their career, the end of the career, he retires Shawn Michaels, I get all that. But in all reality, the reason this match with Triple H and The Undertaker is the last time is because The Undertaker just can't keep doing it forever. The guy has to stop at some point. Shawn Michaels, he could still probably lace up the boots and put on a 5-star quality match, and you're not going to get that opportunity much, much longer. I know he's timeless. I know he's able to come back that last time after 5 years of being away from the industry. But the reality is, Father Time is going to catch up one of these days. And when that happens, it's going to be sad to see someone like Shawn Michaels not have that last major go-around. So I'm hoping they find a way to make that happen. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we used in today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic ski ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our other website at www.frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us tonight. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, make sure you go to www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of professional wrestling, or go to frowrestling.com, click on In Fro's Corner for my editorial pieces as well. Until next time, everybody, it's been great talking to you. Take care, and I will see you Saturday night.